Hello there. So I'd like to continue this discussion and exploration of developing a healthy walking gait. And something that came to mind is I often get comments and questions from clients saying that whenever they walk long distances, or even for some even short distances, they experience a lot of back pain, especially lower back. And there could be a number of reasons for that, but two possibilities that might actually come from the same cause are this, is when you're walking, you might be in a pattern of falling forward with each step. And each forward fall, when you're just landing on the leg that you're reaching out, puts a jarring sensation and an acceleration of your upper body and shock to your upper body, which to avoid continuing to topple over, your lower back might have to grip to hold you up. And that's one possibility. Another possibility, but it stems from the same cause, like I said, is that your hip flexors may be so tight or shortened that whenever you try to bring that leg behind you, it starts to pull all the way into your lower back. And so as your leg goes behind you, your lower back gets pulled down. So you can see that, like the leg goes back and the lower back starts to arc. And both of those can create a lot of strain into the lower back. Now, one of the reasons for that is that our hip flexors themselves are just so darn short. And the reason for that is, again, because we tend in our culture to sit a lot. And every time we're sitting, maybe even slouching, with our knees in front of our hips, we're giving the body the signal to shorten these muscles here in the front of the thighs. And if they keep getting shortened, because we spend a lot of time here, once you stand up, they're not able to fully extend back to even straighten all the way, let alone extend all the way behind you. And it's in that extension where you actually get any of the power of your glutes and your hamstring muscles. So how do we figure out what is the extension that we have, and how do we maybe increase that extension a little bit? So here's a quick way, is you can come onto the floor and you want to lay right onto the ground, and you want to really anchor the very bottom of the pubic bone, your pelvis, to the floor. So that triangular shape of the pelvis reaches right down to the center of a groin. You want that bone, the pubic bone, to anchor into the floor, and then flex or tuck one of your feet, tuck the toes of one of your feet, and without arcing your back and without lifting that pubic bone off the floor, can you straighten that leg, straighten the knee, and lift the knee towards the ceiling? Or lift the whole leg towards the ceiling from the hip. And then you can relax it back down. And you can check out how far it can go before you start to do something like this. If I lift too high and I exaggerate, notice how I'm actually just arcing my whole spine. That's what's creating like more tension in my back. I'm going to keep the pubic bone down, straighten that leg, and try to lift that leg and see how far it goes. And now it's very possible it's only going to go a couple inches off the floor because of all the resistance you might have in your hip flexors. And that's the exercise in and of itself. It's a small exercise, and it's deceptively simple, or rather, it's simple, but it's deceptively hard. So you can find that motion to measure how much distance your leg can actually extend back with ease. Because when you're walking, there's that resistance. If the leg is not able to extend back very far without resistance, you might only really truly be able to take tiny walking steps with that posterior driven gait. And we want to get that a little bit longer. So the way to stretch that and increase the range is to take something like, you can use a yoga block, a stack of pillows, or I like these half rollers. And I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to stretch from the opposite end of the pelvis now. I'm going to actually lift the top edge of my pelvis, the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine. It's usually where we put our hands on our hips here. I'm going to get that off the ground by putting it onto the top of this half cylinder. So I'm going to lay down over it, and I want the bottom of the pelvis, the pubic bone, again, to drop towards the floor. And then you can just kind of relax down. Now notice I'm not putting it so low that it's on the bottom of my pelvis, because then what's happening is my butt to the sky, and I'm actually shortening that crease in my hips there again. So I want my butt to really sink to the floor. And so what that does is it actually pulls your femur bone back in relationship to your hip joint and your pelvis there, to kind of passively give you some hip extension. And so you can just really just hang out there and take a nap for a little while. And then if you want to add on to that, you're going to stretch the quads by bending the knee and grabbing onto your ankle. But still, you want this crease of the hip to still fall towards the floor. Sometimes when you start to stretch the quads, people like to arc their backs again. So you want to really slide it down to develop that, good length through the hamstring, sorry, not the hamstrings, the quadriceps and the iliacus muscle to help with your hip extension. And I'd recommend doing that a few times, holding it for a couple of minutes, and then get up and try to walk around and see what that feels like. Anyway, I hope you have fun with that, and let's keep exploring. I'll see you next week.